Jimenez.
And I'm Vanessa Pina.
And Claudia Miranda.
That, as you can tell, Ben and Greg have changed. They've been working out. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, these two beautiful young ladies are from. Actually, introduce yourself and where you're from and what you're doing.
San Jacinto College, and I am studying to be a broadcast journalist major.
Awesome.
Okay, I am Claudia Miranda, and I'm also studying to be a broadcast journalist over at the University of Houston, where I am Deputy Director of EGMN, El Gato Media Network.
Okay, so to El Gato Media Network. So you saw them here first, like breaking news, right? So here at Houston Media Source on this station right now that you're watching us on, or on YouTube, or wherever you get to see us today, these two young ladies are going to be the faces of the news in the future. It's just great to have them here. So what we're going to do today is we have some very interesting topics. If you haven't been watching the news, the hot topics out there right now are gun control. The next one is immigration. I don't know which one comes first, immigration or gun control, or they're both at the top of the list, right? And the last one is healthcare. So we're going to cover those bases today, and we're going to get deep into the conversation. But before we do that, what's been going on in the community, ladies? Any hot topics out there locally?
Let's see. Well, I mean, other than you just mentioned about the immigration reform, I mean, that's always an impact in our community, especially when it comes to students that are immigrants. That's, their focus right now, especially because, it's a hot topic, like you just said. So that's very important for them when you talk about, like, school-wise and working as well.
So, from a student's point of view is how do we go about it? If we're independents, how do we go about getting health care and things like that? So that's going to be something interesting to go into with who we speak to today, and ask them how us as students can benefit from it.
Okay. So what's your point of view right now about immigration? Before we have the guests on there, what do you think about the immigration? What would you like to see happen?
Well, I mean, I would definitely, like, from a student's point of view, like Claudia just said, I would like for students to be able to pursue their careers, because a lot of them were brought since they were young and they didn't really have a say. So a lot of them are here for very positive reasons, and to be able to just have a piece of paper, to say it like that, to hold back their career and what they can do for our country is, I don't think it's right. So I'm definitely for it, and I think that's just something that we all need to focus on, because that's our future. So. Okay.
A lot of the students here who aren't legally here, those who are going to school and are trying to pursue a career, I mean, that with them being able to be citizens, they will benefit us as the U.S., meaning that they will contribute and, for instance, become lawyers, those who are in law school, or those who are starting to be engineers. They will benefit us. So I think that it is something positive. I mean, I understand that there might be some
hesitation,
but
at the end of the day, a lot of them are very focused in their career, and like she said, lawyers, doctors, like that's just like our hands are in the young Americans' future. So
okay, so you guys pretty much, I like what you said, and I'll play devil's advocate. So what about all the other ones that don't care about being positive, impacts on the community?
Well, those I would not feel so bad for, and that sounds really blunt
Well,
and
no, I mean,
really
that's
bad
what,
to say.
But we need to talk about what people really think.
Reality, yes. I do agree that there's some out there who aren't doing what they should be doing as, law-abiding citizens, and are unfortunately not doing well
So
to our
what do we
society.
do? Just lock them up or send them back?
I would say send them back.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it's, like, we can't speak for everybody, because just even citizens, like, we're not all good people to say it like that. But I mean, like, the majority, like, I think that there should be restrictions when it comes to an immigration reform as well, just to prevent, our country with, like, the bad people, like, to stay here, I guess, to say it like that.
Okay, but there is like there should be a line. That's what I feel like.
Exactly,
There should be a line. Like there is people who aren't like filing taxes, for instance, and then there's people who are.
So you should
out
get
there.
deported for not filing your taxes?
No. There
Why
should be a
not?
line.
Is
Well,
that breaking the law?
Well,
Isn't
yeah,
it?
I agree. That's true. But there's a difference from those who aren't paying their taxes and those who are, let's say, going out and killing people or doing worser stuff.
Okay, so one
se.
DWI, time to go?
Well,
the reason I throw it out there is because that's how difficult the conversation
no,
is. I mean, there's
yeah,
so
I
many things
agree.
that go into play here. You know, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what if you're a 21-year-old on your birthday and you go party and you get 1 point with something above the limit and it's a DWI? You get popped.
That's true.
Should we deport it?
I mean, I think, in general, there's always going to be those bad people, I guess.
But are they really bad?
But yeah, exactly.
just
So
make
I
a
mean,
mistake?
like,
Well, we all make mistakes.
exactly.
Right? So should we give them a second chance or not? We don't know, right?
I believe that everyone deserves a second chance, and I mean, you get that second chance. You either make it worth it, or if you don't, that's it. Game over.
Exactly. And when I said restrictions previously, like I mean, like about like the Dream Act reform that they passed as well. Like I know from a personal point of view, like I have friends that were able to benefit from that, and now they're finally getting to work and everything. But for that, they had to be enrolled in school. They have to have lived here since a certain time and things like that. So I mean, it's not just oh, you're young, okay, you get to benefit from this. Like they're now being able to enroll in school properly and have a job properly as well. So, but for that, they do have to go to school. So, I mean, that's a good restriction or requirement for them.
And for those that are out there saying, well, that person just took the job of a U.S. citizen, now that we give them that paperwork. What do we say to that?
Well, some of the U.S. citizens are taking advantage of it. So why not give it to somebody who wants it and has worked hard for it?
And if that person has the job to begin with, it's because they didn't want it, first of all.
Exactly.
So.
All right. Well, on that note, as you can tell, we won't even agree, and that's a good. Y'all did good. Y'all can relax now. Y'all turn red and everything. No, I'm just kidding. I'm the one that's turning red here. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna bring our first guest. He is the executive director of Mi Familia Vota, and he's here to announce a march that's going to be happening here in a couple of days, and the reason behind the march. And after that, we're also going to bring on the Road Women, the River Oaks area Democrats, and they're going to discuss their event that's coming up tomorrow. If you're watching this on YouTube, it already passed. But if not, if you're watching us live right now, and you're in the Austin area, or you want to go up there and support, they will be in Austin tomorrow having a wonderful event. Hopefully making a difference like what their intention is. And after that, we'll also have Dr. Angelique Bartholomew to discuss the healthcare issues. So thank you for watching. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Latino Talk TV. Now we have a very special guest, Mr. Carlos Duarte, the State Director for Mi Familia Vota. Carlos, welcome to the show.
Hello, Jose Luis. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you once again, and we understand you have some very good things going on. So just go ahead and tell us what you're here to tell us.
Well, it's great to be back here in your program, and basically what it is that the time for immigration reform is now, and there's this huge mobilization that's happening nationwide. So in Washington D.C., there's going to be these thousands of people demanding comprehensive immigration reform with a path to citizenship. So there's all of these echo events across the nation, several of them actually here in Texas. There's going to be a march in Dallas, there's going to be one in Austin, and there's going to be one here in Houston, Texas. So the march is on Wednesday, the 10th at 11:30 a.m. on the corner. It's actually Antioch Park. So it's the corner of Clay and Smith. So what we're actually going to do is we have been collecting a number of petitions from across the city, and we're going to be delivering those to Senator Cruz's office. We're basically asking him to have a heart and pass comprehensive immigration reform with a path to citizenship. Now, as you might know, Senator Cruz has been saying that he does not approve of that. And it's really interesting because there's this huge movement happening all across the nation where you see 80% of the population saying that the time is now to pass comprehensive immigration reform. But there are still a few senators that are standing in the way. Now, how can that be, especially from a state like Texas that would benefit so much from comprehensive immigration reform? And especially, how could it be from Senator Ted Cruz, that is from a Cuban ancestry, heritage, and his family is immigrant. He knows the contributions of immigrants. He knows how great this community has been and will continue to be, and yet he's not supporting a path to citizenship to our communities. So we want to ask Senator Ted Cruz, why is it that you will not provide the same opportunities for all of us immigrants that are here contributing to this country?
Wow. I think I've heard him say before that, number one, I think his statement was that they did it right.
Yes. So I think that what he has been arguing is that people should be. Why would you reward people that didn't do it the right way, right? So there's two problems with that argument, right? Number one is that he's making a distinction that really doesn't exist, right? One is that immigrant communities, immigrant families are mixed. That means that some of them are here legally and some of them are not here legally. So if my sister, for example, it would be undocumented, why would I not support her becoming a legal U.S. citizen? I mean, that doesn't make sense. So his argument is that in order to protect people that have been doing it right, that then we shouldn't reward people that did it wrong. So that's the first problem with that argument. But the second problem is that by having 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, we are not only affecting people that have been waiting online, and by the way, there's no such thing as a line. We can talk more about that. But you're actually hurting all of the workers and all of the communities here in the United States. You were just mentioning how these wages continue to go down because workers do not have the protection of the law if they are immigrants. In fact, undocumented immigrants make 18% less than a U.S. citizen doing the same job. So suddenly for Senator Cruz to be saying that he wants to protect the interest of people that are outside the country waiting online to come on in, but at the same time allowing 11 million people undocumented here in this country hurting all of us, that really doesn't make sense.
So would it be fair to first document the people who are already here and are contributing to the economy? Would that be fair?
Well, so I think that part of the argument is, to answer your question directly, is yes. Part of the comprehensive immigration reform bill that we would like to see introduced by the Senate, hopefully as early as this Friday, would obviously cover, what do you do with all of the backlog, right? People that have been waiting here for 10 years, 15 years to come on in, right? But the other argument that both Senator Cruz and Senator Cornyn have made is that you need to enforce the border first, right? And that was the old argument, and that was actually the one that derailed discussions in the past. Well, it turns out that the border is more secure than ever. There have been $18 billion spent on securing the border just this past year alone, and that's more than all of the other enforcement agencies.
That's just the Texas border?
All of the border, right? And all of the benchmarks that had been asked for in the past have been met. You know, the drones and the amount of ICE agents and Border Patrol agents, right? But the main argument here is that the best way to secure the borders is to have a good system for future flow of immigrants, so that it's easier to come on in and provide the services that we're asking these immigrants to come and perform, instead of having to risk their lives. Now, the current status quo, it's terrible. I mean, there's more than 400 people that are dying every year crossing the border. So that it's really crazy to think that people, if there were a good system to come on in, that they would risk their lives to come and provide a service that we're asking them for.
I've heard it said before that in order to fix the immigration, the amount of immigrants coming in from Mexico would be to first build the economy in Mexico. Would you say that's maybe an idea that's something that could potentially work?
Well, and that's the interesting case, right? There has been a shift. So the economy in Mexico has improved so much, and the demographics have changed so much in the sense that now there are not the balance between older people and younger people is such that immigrants are not wanting to come to the United States. So much so that this past year, the net immigration to the United States from Mexico was 0, which means that less people migrated to the United States than people from Mexico going back to Mexico. So there's 0 migration from Mexico happening right now. And that's a result of both the economy in Mexico improving and also the fact that the young population there is actually getting jobs. Right?
Yeah.
So let's, speaking about the economy, let's talk about the money, and let's really look at the impact of a good immigration reform. Let's, because there's some impacts to it, and there's some pros and cons about how the system is today. Some people don't want to talk about it, or they just want to, ignore the big elephant in the room. But the reality is that the majority of the 11 million people work, and they work as contractors, or they work under the name or social or information of somebody else. And the majority of those people do not have any way or will ever have any way of collecting any Social Security or any type of benefits. Is that a true statement?
Yes, that is a true statement. And I think that part of the argument, and I'm glad that you're touching on that, Jose Luis, is that we know there has been a number of studies, particularly by the Center of American Progress, that show that the economy would improve nationwide $1.5 trillion in the next 10 years if undocumented immigrants were legalized here in the United States. But Texas, and that's why we're so upset with Senator Ted Cruz, that in Texas, just by legalizing the 1.6 million undocumented immigrants that are in the state of Texas, there would be $4.1 billion in additional revenue. That's only additional revenue in the next 3 years. And that would generate 193,000 new jobs in the state of Texas if people were to be legalized. So I think that's...
And in the counter argument, that'll also increase the number of people who can now qualify for government services.
Well, but and I think that's the back and forth, which would be fair, right?
That.
But that would be fair because they would be paying for the system. But I think that's...
But aren't they already paying for it?
And they are.
Exactly. And they're not benefiting from anything at the moment.
So why change it? For those in control, what benefit do they have to change it?
Because they are paying in the emergency room. So actually the system is getting affected more and more because the system is so broken that money should not be going the proper channels.
And you're absolutely correct. I mean, the emergency rooms are the biggest drain out there, and then that's where people are going to because they can't turn people away at the emergency room.
That's right.
So, there's always a different cycle to it, and I was intentionally kind of walking through all those things. But, let's talk about, once again, the money trail, right? In Texas, now let's talk about politics. I personally think that either political party should take advantage of creating 11 million new voters.
Exactly.
I think it's just ignorant of either political party to not take advantage of the potential of getting 11 million new voters. That's just dumb. If I was the leaders of the Republican Party, if I was at the table talking about this, I'd look, there's 11 million people that we can bring in who are majority conservative Catholics, which is a true statement. I was like, why not go after that pool of voters?
Well, it's actually so interesting what you're saying, and I would like to say two things. One is that I don't think that the Republican Party is a monolithic party. And you see these voices more and more coming up saying, immigration reform is not a Democrat issue, right? it's actually a conservative issue, and the way that Robert Norquist put it the other day was there's nothing conservative about 11 million undocumented immigrants in the country. That's the worst case scenario, and that's what we have right now. And you know, his position, and I thought that it was interesting, and I'm thinking about Robert Norquist because that's what you would think as the most conservative person in the United States. And he was saying, if I break the laws by speeding, what should happen to me is you give me a fine, I pay the fine, and that's the end of it. You know, I paid my dues, and that's it. But we continue to want to punish undocumented immigrants. On the one hand, we tell them don't come. On the other side, we're saying we're hiring workers, come on in. So it's true. I mean, no one is saying that they didn't break the law, but you know, they break the law. Now do the fine and move, and you know.
Well, she wants to deport everybody who doesn't do their taxes. You know, if you don't do your taxes, she wants them out. You know.
Well, not even the IRS is that bad.
Maybe just
No,
the
they'll just throw you in
criminals.
jail. You don't do your taxes for so many years. But I mean, you got a real good point there, and it's like it's all about business and money. And I really do think that there needs to be a, you know, I truly believe that if you say, hey, your fine is going to be $50,000, you figure out how to pay for it, people will figure out how to pay for it.
Well, and that's one of the worries that we have, right? We think that the bill that's going to be introduced, hopefully by the end of the week, it's going to be punitive, because I think that what they're thinking is they want to get as many conservative votes as possible. From our perspective is these people have suffered enough. They've paid enough. I mean, they've risked their lives coming here. They've been at the bottom of the ladder, making substandard wages. So they've waited in line, if you want to call it a line.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it suffering. Okay,
Why?
I just don't call it suffering, because no matter where you come from.
Jose Luis, you have a family.
Yes.
What do you think it feels like for your
Now,
children?
let me clear about this.
for your
I also have family members that have also gone through the same experience. My own grandparents did it too. So,
Well,
you know, suffering and opportunity, when you have it, it's also in the language that you put it in. If you continuously tell people that they're suffering all the time, they're going to believe it. But in this country, there's opportunity to do whatever you want, and you know that.
From that perspective, I agree with you.
Okay.
But yeah, let me tell you this.
Okay.
Every time that you're going out, you know, to work, and your daughter is thinking, I don't know if my dad is going to be deported today, I would say that that's suffering for the family. And for the father, as he's leaving to work and knowing that who knows if I'm going to come back to my family today, if I'm going to be deported, I think that's causing a lot of suffering from the families.
Okay.
But I agree with what you're saying.
And what do you say to the police officer's daughter who says the same thing every day when he goes out to work? My daddy might be killed today out in the line of duty.
Right.
Isn't that suffering also?
It is.
Okay, so it's a choice.
So, but the difference is this: the immigrant that came here didn't have a choice. There was not a system.
No, there was
not a
choice.
proper. There was not a proper system to migrate to the United States. So much so that they decided to risk their lives.
Exactly,
crossing.
and I can say from a personal point, my parents immigrated to this country when my big sister was very young, and they had to come into a very small town in Texas, so much that their effort for us, we weren't planned yet or anything, but so much for our future that they were thinking that, you know, my mom worked, you know, like in picking up cotton, and my dad worked like at a company where they make like dog food and stuff, and he had to walk to work every single day, and then they had a reform with President Ronald Reagan, and they were able to legalize their status, and you know, and I thank them for them, because I'm here now and I have the opportunity of being a citizen with my other sisters, and you know, I have all these opportunities. So I feel for those students that don't have those opportunities because they're immigrants still.
And I'm with
So-
you. I'm totally with you. The only thing that I don't agree with is we all make a choice. Okay, good, bad, or ugly, from where we come from and what we have in front of us. So there's an opportunity to make things better, and I want things to get better. Don't get me wrong on that. You know, but just the way, because the truth is, let's just be honest about what is happening. You know, the people who we believe can't do it are the same ones who are buying houses buying houses cash, have car loans, because you know the market wouldn't be pushing so much on the Spanish news to sell so many cars if they weren't selling them. Right?
Right.
And you know, in my line of business, I get some people who are buying $50,000 vehicles, okay, and they're paying the $1,000 a month car notes, no problems. And there's some that don't.
No, I think
So-
that you have a great point, because I think that when you look at the immigrant population, these are the people that are most determined to make it happen.
Absolutely.
Right?
They
So,
work
so
hard.
when you see the numbers, you actually see that they are more entrepreneurial than the native born. They excel in school. You know, you see the dreamers and whatnot. So I think that you are right on that point. And I think that the other element here is that you see the vast majority of the community. So right now, obviously, I'm representing a big coalition, but it's impossible to include everyone that is actually pushing for immigration reform. You see, and I want to touch back on something that you said, actually several of the Christian community are making that same argument, saying, you know what, a lot of these immigrants are Catholic or Christian, and I never thought of this, but they were saying this is the population that is actually going to go out of the country on missionary projects. It's like mind-boggling, and they were saying, you know, because of this immigration, we continue to be, you know, religious. So in that regard, is what really doesn't make sense is for our leaders here in Texas not taking the opportunity to say, you know what, I understand, I get it, this is good for Texas, this is good for our community, this is good for our country, let's push for comprehensive immigration reform with a path to citizenship.
The unfortunate thing is for some of our elected leaders, it might not get them past the next election.
For some of them?
For some of them, yes. If they support it, it may not get them past their next election.
Well, but I think that has been the thinking.
Politics.
But I think it's wrong, Jose Luis, because you know what? 80% of the community is supporting this. And again, I mean,
Well, it depends on what community you're looking at.
We
If you're
went
looking
to
at the Latino-
Congressman Weber's office the other day. He had a town hall the other day, Congressman Weber, and you would see people that are so conservative, right? That they were saying, yeah, no, you know, we should fight Obama on this and that. And then they would be making the same argument that I made with Robert Norquist, saying, you know, just have them pay a fine and let's continue building our country.
And on that point, let's take a quick break. We're going to bring on a couple of more guests, and we're going to mix it all in and see what else we can add on to this conversation. I hope you're enjoying the show. We'll be right back. You're watching Latino Talk TV. Welcome back to Latino Talk TV. Now we have two more guests with us, and we're going to let them introduce themselves. They're going to talk about the event that they're going to be discussing, and we'll get back into the conversation. So please, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Linda Marroquin. I am on the board of Road Women, which is the River Oaks Area Democratic Women's Council, and we're here today to talk about the Blue Ribbon Lobbying Day in Austin, Texas.
Tomorrow. All right, so if you're watching right now, go to Austin tomorrow, okay? Dr. Bartholomew?
I'm Angelique Bartholomew, and I am with Intuitive Medical, and our company actually focuses on health care. And one of the opportunities that we're helping to focus on is the benefits of the legislation that's being presented in the House very recently, coming up with the Road Women. We're going to be at the Lobby Day to really build awareness about the impact of health care as it relates to the current legislation.
Okay, so talk about the current legislation and what the main objective is for both of y'all. And of course, we're going to mix it right in with the immigration because Carlos is pushing really, really hard. So
Well,
we will agree to agree.
There's actually what we're going to lobby for, and it's going to be fantastic that we've got women from the entire state of Texas coming on buses to talk to our legislators about three issues. One is Medicaid expansion and the kind of money that has been limited in the state of Texas. The other is getting full funding for women's health programs. And the other is just the restoration of the education fund. And each one of these things refers to women's issues. The fact that we need more money in our educational fund makes a big difference to women because they're the caretakers of a family. So those are the three issues we're really going to focus on when we talk to our legislators tomorrow. And we're very excited about the Blue Ribbon Lobby Day.
Absolutely. I think that it's going to be a huge awareness for women of all ages. I think that health care is, for women is impacted by Medicaid being cut in 2011 significantly. Women 19 to 64 being absent of insurance is just huge. It's over a third in the state of Texas. So you have to really consider the impact of Medicaid as it relates to women and children. For single family women, it makes a huge difference. And women being able to take advantage of prevention and intervention. Women are able to see doctors less and less based on that because of low income and the unaffordability of health care costs and being able to really address issues such as breast cancer and even pregnancy prevention and various other things. So all of those issues are affecting women from 19 to 64. So
we were coming up with an interesting statistic that if we actually look at the number of women who are uninsured in the state of Texas, it's about 4 million women that are uninsured in the state of Texas. That's the entire population of Houston, Texas.
absolutely. Wow. So if you can imagine the entire city of Houston being women, that is the impact of healthcare legislation for Texas right now.
There's a couple of things that really intrigue me of what you're doing. One is that women, from a civic perspective, women are at the lowest level in civic participation when it comes to voting. And you're telling me that a group of women have actually organized from across the state and are actually going down to talk to legislators. How is that possible?
Absolutely. Ask this lady.
Carlos's job, all the time, because he never sleeps, is organizing people to go vote. That is his number one objective in life, and he's so passionate about it. So, I mean, his eyes are twinkling right now. It's beautiful.
It's huge. It's huge. And Linda is behind it. It's a group of women that are very powerful, pulling together to really address the issues that are coming up in the legislation. They actually get together more often than just for the Road Women heading up to Austin.
And there's quite a few groups, all around the state that are at the moment, I can only speak to those groups that are Democratic women because that's what we are. But we are banding together. We are looking to stop the politicization of women's issues and start talking about people. start talking about women, because this state of Texas has the least amount of women registered to vote, as you well know. And that is planned, as far as I'm concerned. It's planned to keep information away from women. So what we're trying to do, and we were discussing this in the green room, is that what is that simple message that we can speak to all women, not just women of color, but all women, that speaks to them about their health issues, their educational issues, their aging issues also.
Well, I have two individuals right here
Yeah.
that are staring at y'all and wondering, kind of like, what are y'all talking about? You know?
Absolutely.
So
Well, it's not about
recruit them.
politics. It's not about politics for me. I mean, I've been on both sides of the fence. It really just depends on, what's impacting me, and I really tend to look at what's being voted upon before I make my decisions on politicians and the issues that are going on. But it's not about the politics. It's really about, as Linda said, the people. It's about the women. If you think about the moms, the sisters, she said, what is the message that we can send? I mean, I would just say, hey, to every woman out there, are you possibly a mom, an aunt, a sister, a friend, a woman? These are issues that will impact you regardless. It's not just an impact from a healthcare standpoint for prevention and intervention. It's about our future, our children being able to be insured, and then leading on into the Lilly Ledbetter Act and getting women equally paid.
That's exactly right.
It's almost ridiculous that in 2013 we would be talking about your inability to earn the same income as a man, possibly 64 cents less on the dollar than a man, and I'm not a women's, liberator or activist or anything. I'm just looking at the issues that affect me in my house.
From a Medicaid expansion perspective, I mean, all of this sounds great, right? But, how do you pay for that? And we're in Texas, right? We
Absolutely.
want to make our own decisions.
Absolutely.
Well, let's just say, let's talk a little bit about that. We are, our governor has stated that we are not going to accept $73 million in funding. Now, most of that is for women's health issues. If we consider that that money is not going into the clinics, that women will not be able to get some of their just preventative medicine and family planning opportunities, what not taking $73 million in funding is going to cause is, just in the next year, 23,000 unintended pregnancies. And what 23,000 unintended pregnancies will cost the state is about $75 million. So that means that we're down $150 million because we won't take $73 million from the government.
So now what we're actually doing is we're talking about the one topic that usually gets people pretty,
Divided.
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 So the preventative health care, which is, the morning, not the morning after pill, the morning after pill, and birth control and abortions. So a lot of people religiously don't even want to discuss that. And
You're absolutely right, but
as
this
a Latino
isn't
community,
about.
it's something that happens.
But this isn't even about that. This is about preventative medicine. This is about a woman being able to get health screenings, pap smears, breast exams. I mean, simple things that will possibly get her to recognize and understand how important her health is, and then what it is that, how to be educated and all the other things.
But you'd also be surprised at the number of people in Texas or women in Texas that actually support Planned Parenthood or planning pregnancy. And it's the statistics on that are just huge in terms of women that actually support having planned prevention. And it's about 70% of the women in Texas that actually support planned pregnancy prevention.
Birth control.
And birth control, absolutely.
And they actually have medical uses also. I mean, I've heard of some friends that were placed on birth control for medical purposes.
Right. So 73% of Texans actually, in women, Texas women support some type of prevention and birth control methods for women. So Texas is not completely on the right side with regard to that. It really just is a matter of, you know, women's issues and where women truly stand, women paying attention to what's going on for women.
So you said there was a cut in 2011. What's the biggest impact since then that, you know, for, let's say, like young women like us? You know, like you were talking about how
They're all
it
young
would-
women. Everybody here's young.
Tell her.
Like you were talking about, no, because you were talking about how it, you know, if there's unplanned pregnancies, how that's gonna, you know, like double the expenses, or, you know, so since 2011 that there was that cut, like what's the biggest, has there been like a dramatic, you know, percentage that's gone up, like let's say, and, you know, like young women, you know, being pregnant, or
Yes,
because they can't have,
unplanned.
Oh,
unplanned
absolutely.
pregnancies.
But what's worse than that is that we've had over 53 clinics shut down that have nothing to do with abortions. They're just health screening clinics for women who are not getting funded. That's the kind of impact when a woman can't even go and get simple blood tests, simple exams. And we're talking also about women who are under a certain, not only educational, but money, you know, income level, that must have access to these kinds of clinics. And so who's that? Your college students, your high school students, do you know, your young mothers.
The location of those clinics is critical too. You really have to look at the location and the impact on low-income communities. And as Linda said, it's really related to the impact on overall health care, not just pregnancy prevention for teens, but you're talking about, you know, Hispanics who work, you know, hourly wage jobs, being able to see an OB, being able to get a breast exam. Those things are no longer able to take place because of the 53 clinics that have been closed throughout the state of Texas. So you've got to look at the impact overall. Of course, the less women are able to take care of themselves, the more issues we're going to have with unplanned pregnancies. But that's not our focal point. It's really truly prevention and intervention. And Intuitive Medical, our company, really helps doctors to look at what is it that Obamacare is really asking us to do. Where are we really targeting? And Linda said, you know, you're looking at pretty precise measures. You're looking at the impact of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and aging people that are living longer and getting older. Can you imagine reaching 65 or 70 and not having health care? You know, what would you plan for your children to take care of you at that stage? That's where we all are right now. Have you planned, you know, have I planned to take care of my mother at this point because her Medicare is not able to, you know, facilitate her needs? So really examining the impact for women as a whole. What is it that this $73 million can do to expand health care across the state? And you talked about earlier, you know, what is it that's going to truly make the difference? The $73 million will bring Texas about $15 billion or so, I believe, in terms of long-term benefits. So the state stands to benefit dollar for dollar. For every, I believe, 15 cents that is going to be spent on Medicaid expansion, we stand to gain $1 or $2. So, you know.
It makes sense to me. I'm not the governor of the state, though, right?
Right.
Well, so, but based on what you were saying in particular, I think the real impact would be to get women, all women, young women, older women, to recognize how important they are, that their voice is critical, and that they have to vote, and they have to be registered to vote, and they can't be afraid to vote, and they can be listened to. We're going tomorrow to Austin, Texas, en masse with our blue ribbons and our blue dresses, and we're going to show up and we're going to say, here we are, women will remember in November, and we are here to tell you exactly what we demand as citizens of this country and of this state from you, legislators, and quit using women as a political sword. And so it's important, it's very important, it's critically important that you get more and more people to vote.
Yes.
And
sorry to interrupt. I have
please.
questions. How was, for instance, us college students, how can we get involved? What can we do to
Motivate, like,
other women to look
our
after
age.
themselves?
Well, it's great that you asked that. We were talking about what is that simple message that can be said. It's a rhetorical question at the moment. We don't quite have the answer to it yet. But the real important thing is just get them to register to vote. I mean, that's the best thing you could do, and then keep them motivated to go actually pull the lever, you know, and vote.
I'm very excited about the information that's been pulled together by Lottie Blue Ribbon Day by the Road Women. There is a packet that can actually be, you know, put on viral to bring awareness. The statistics and the numbers are alarming. If you, you know, just take a minute to look at that and put that on your social media. You know, I sent it to my database today and said, hey, if you don't think that health care for women impacts you, take a look at these alarming statistics. And I put on there, are you a mom? Are you a sister? Are you an aunt? Are you a grandmother?
Well, how can we direct our viewers? How can we get them to y'all? And please give your names and your phone numbers or websites, whatever you want to give, so they can get those statistics from you.
Well, if you go to blueribbonlobbyday.com, you'll get all the information for tomorrow, and we also have a Facebook page. We're very excited. We're only about maybe 4 weeks old, and we've got, you know, close to 1,000 people who've liked us, so we're very excited about that. We're going to have a great turnout tomorrow, and the more women's voices are heard, speaking like we're speaking on this show, listening like you're listening on this show, and, you know, causing them to vote like you're trying to do, the more we can get them to do that, the more our voice will be heard.
And I can be reached at, I'm Angelique Bartholomew. I can be reached at 713-875-5789. And I deal directly with physicians and clinicians, helping them to understand ways that they can participate in the changing healthcare system.
Say the number one more time so they can write it down.
713-875-5789, and it's Intuitive Medical Services.
Okay, and that's to get good information on the issues that are coming up. And Carlos, how do we get information from you for the march?
Yeah, so you can go to Mi Familia Vota, Texas, go to the Facebook page, that's the easiest. You'll find all the information about the march, but again, it's Wednesday at 11:30 at the corner of Smith and Clay. It's Antioch Park, and we're going to be marching to Ted Cruz's office at that time. So, you know, what I would say to your question is, you know, this is the age of the internet. So, you know, you can ask.
Yes.
There's a number of ways that you can get involved. There's great organizations, Texas Organizing Project, the League of Young Voters, NALEO, Mi Familia Vota. There's a number of the League of Women Voters. These wonderful organizations. Look them in the internet, and you'll find ways to get involved in all of these efforts.
Yeah, the truth is, getting involved is a choice. Because a lot of us just get so involved with our daily lives that we just ignore everything around us, you know. And that's why we do the show, to get people hopefully paying attention to things that they might not see every day. I mean, you don't see CNN and all these other great big stations dedicating this much time into something like this. So, and I really do appreciate y'all coming. Any closing thoughts? We're running out of time. We've got 6 minutes left.
Well, we're looking for young women to join our organizations like Road Women. Every women's group is looking for young women to join. So we've got great speakers. We get very motivated. And so, of course, we invite you, and we invite all young women to join roadwomen.com.
I wonder if you could talk, because if we have 6 minutes, you talked about the impact of education.
Yes.
So I guess the legislature has been working on a budget, and they are restoring some funding. So how much are they restoring, and what's going to be the impact of that?
I don't have that kind of information. All I will say about education that I am most upset about is that we were promised when they initiated the lottery in this state that the majority of the money would be going to education. I found out that in the statistics, only 1 week of revenue from the lottery goes to education in the state of Texas. So I don't know if that was misrepresented or I think it was just misrepresented to us, you know, to install something that actually is very devastating to people's lives. The lottery is very devastating to people's lives. So we don't have the funding that we have been promised for education, and the more funding we get, the better it is. There is, as you will know, this is another issue for women, STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Women don't necessarily go into those fields of study, and it's really critical that we start getting women into it, into those fields of study. They can make a big difference in those fields, and there's money to be made in those fields also.
Absolutely, I agree.
And that's a part of one of the organizations that I'm working on with Women in Power. The focus is to get women into non-traditional industries, areas that they would not normally go after for jobs and opportunities for equal pay. So that's a big deal. I do know that in terms of the education cuts, it's about $500 per child. That was cut. $5.4 million was cut per child, $500 per child in education over the last 2011. So if they're increasing even half or a percentage of that, it would really allow us to make a substantial difference in education. So all of that is before the legislation this term, and we need to be aware of it and make people aware.
Yeah, and I think that the point that I really wanted to make, going back to the civic participation aspect of it, is that the money is there. It's a matter of choice. Where do you put the money that we have as a legislature? And they will actually go, if we organize and we put the pressure in the right points, they would actually give it to where we think it needs to go. And I think it needs to go to healthcare, and I think it needs to go to
Absolutely.
education. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of people getting involved.
Involved in getting our voices heard as women, getting it out there and making sure that we get what we are asking for.
And as women of color, let me make that very, very clear.
Yeah.
And as women of color, because the majority, and you were giving some statistics on this earlier, the majority of women who are being affected by these healthcare cuts, Medicaid cuts, and educational cuts are women of color.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate you joining us today on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And
Thank
you
you
guys
for
are
having
always
us.
welcome. Hopefully after everything happened, we want you back to let us know how
Absolutely.
everything went. Any closing comments?
No, I
No,
mean,
we're just gonna try to get the word out there as well, so that we can let young college students know what's going on.
Wonderful.
that's true. I feel like as college students, we're so wrapped up in our studies that we don't really see what's happening in the outside world. So it's
The
eye-opening.
city of Texas.
Yeah.
Without
No,
insurance.
yeah, exactly.
The
And just in the
city of-
city.
wow.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's eye-opening.
It is.
Yeah, city of Houston, yeah.
Yeah.
The city of Texas.
That's the city. City of Houston. City of Houston.
Nashville's a-
Imagine.
All right. Okay, well, on that note, thank you all so much for joining us. The biggest thing that you can get out of the show is that you need to get involved. Do something. Don't just sit here and watch the show, but after you get done watching the show, you know, actually to watch this show, yes. But afterwards, get involved, visit those websites, go to our website. But tomorrow and every day after, get in your elected officials' business. Don't let them off the hook. They're there to work for you. Know what they're doing, know what they're voting on, call their offices up, be that person that they know. That's your job. They're working for us. They're our employees. We elected them, and if they're not doing what you want them to do, let them know. I mean, you don't just let a guy work for you or a person work for you and not hold them accountable for what they're doing. So hold your elected officials accountable, and please get involved in your community. And thank you so much for watching Latino Talk TV. Have a great night.